Hispanics-Latinos are the center of a changing electorate. In the 2020 presidential election, the group reached a record 32 million eligible voters, the largest minority voting group and the country's second largest voter bloc by ethnicity. Another first, voting by Hispanics Latino born in the United States was approximately the same rate as those who are naturalized citizens, according to a City University of New York study. Still, despite those milestones, many of them didn't show up at the polls in Connecticut.
From what I see, I don't think they're voting as much as we should. I think it's very important that we should all think about it and think seriously, because this could affect your life, and the life of your families.
Luis Lorenzo has been living in Bristol for 22 years. Up until recently, he was unable to vote because of his citizenship status.
It was tough. I got here at 12 years old, from Mexico, originally from Mexico. So, I was living in the shadows for a long time,
The Pew Research Center found that between 2000 and 2018, over 10 million adult immigrants gained citizenship and became eligible to vote. Fewer than half, 38% of Hispanic Latino immigrants were eligible voters in 2020, a share that increased since 2000, when only about 1/4 of Hispanic Latino immigrants were eligible. About 15% of Connecticut residents were born in another country. Language can be a barrier for new voters. In December, the Census Bureau issued its national list of states, counties, and communities where populations of eligible voters not proficient in English are large enough to trigger protection under the Federal Voting Rights Act requiring language help. Due to the high numbers of Hispanics Latinos in communities like Bridgeport, New Haven, and East Hartford, Connecticut is on the list. But immigration status, language hurdles aren't the only factors that play a role in why Hispanics Latinos not born in the U.S. don't vote.
For some Latino voters, that is not that they don't understand English, because of course more and more Latinos now have English proficiency skills, but it's they don't identify with those candidates.
While Hispanics Latinos make up more than 60 million of the country's population, about 6,700 elected officials are Hispanic Latino. According to a 2018 analysis by NALEO, that amounts to a political representation rate of just over 1% in local, state, and federal elected offices. In Connecticut, no Hispanic Latinos has ever held one of the 6 constitutional statewide offices. The same goes for the 5 congressional seats. Valeriano Ramos with Everyday Democracy adds that there is a communication problem in engaging with Hispanic Latino voters.
The candidates, more often than not, and the political parties don't always know how to communicate a message to the Latino community. May explain why they don't feel that they're connected with the candidates, and they therefore don't feel the urge to participate.
Wildalis Bermudez, a Harvard political activist, believes that both Democrats and Republicans don't do enough to target Hispanic Latino voters, because they rather focus on traditional voters who have turned out in the past, instead of investing time in new voters. That can explain the drop in registration by naturalized Hispanics Latinos, a research at the Center for Latin American, Caribbean, and Latino Studies at CUNY discovered.
From the people that I know, I think that there is a lack of outreach. I think there is maybe in a way some people feel excluded, like they're not having the knowledge too.
If you cultivate in children, in Latino children, a proclivity to vote at an early age, and they learn how important to vote it is for their community, for the Latino community, chances are they will be more engaged in not only in voting, but in other civic engagement efforts.
While education is key to creating a culture of voting, especially with naturalized citizens, Bermudez has found that canvassing Hartford's many lower-income Hispanic Latino neighborhoods, that people are too busy trying to survive to follow government and politics. Fernando Betancourt, Executive Director of the San Juan Center, agrees.
Every time that you have a migration wave, most of the time are people in need, either because they are escaping economic situation in their country of origin or political persecution. If you are coming from those conditions that I mentioned, what are your real concerns? It's not about acquiring political status or is surviving.
Although there was a 10% increase in voters' turnout for the 2020 presidential election, the state of Connecticut does not offer extended voting hours.
This makes it harder for many living in Connecticut to cast a vote. In-person voting is limited to a single day and hours, which correspond to when people are working, often in jobs where they cannot take time off to vote. Despite the many obstacles, for Lorenzo, voting for the first time in the 2021 local elections was a major accomplishment.
Now, with me becoming a citizen, it gave me that opportunity to contribute, to have a voice. It was exciting. It gave me the opportunity to elect or try to elect the person that I wanted for my local.
For Connecticut Latina News, I'm Maricela Baez.